As a young man of 6 growing up in the rich farmlands of northern Illinois, I would spend my days playing in the creeks that meandered along and across Flansburg and Orangeville roads until the impending darkness would beckon me back to the relative security of home. On one such day, as I was making my way along the road, I was abruptly brought around by an alarmingly loud, thunderous roar. Before I could even begin to tremble, a black car like one I had never seen before came out of the curve behind me and sped past with what appeared to be 2 ghosts on board. I even recollected after the dust had settled that the spirit in the passenger seat had waved at me. Convinced that I had just seen not 1 but 2 ghosts, I found my pace quickening to a run, and with a lipstick sunset smeared across the western sky, I arrived home. I couldn't wait to tell my tale of seeing the phantoms of Flansburg Road.
Dad, I just saw a car with 2 ghosts in it.
Sit down for supper, son. You didn't see a ghost out there in the car.
Oh, leave him alone. He just saw something that got him excited.
Oh, Amy, it's not just excitement. I mean, you didn't see a ghost out there. What it is people
Now eat your dinner and go do your chores. But when I laid my head on my pillow that night, my thoughts were on what I had seen and heard in the early evening mist. It was easy to convince myself that what had passed me out there wasn't real. Many, many years later, at age 50, I received a call from one of my friends, Kurt Flannery, back home in Orangeville, Illinois, who proceeded to tell me he was building a Ford Speedster. The very word speedster made my blood pump a little faster. Kurt told me that in the early days of the automobile, many enthusiasts would convert their Model T and Model A Fords into street-legal replicas of racing cars, called speedsters. These speedsters resulted, essentially, as the world's very first hot rods. Ironically, the first such speedster is credited to a man who loved cars and made them his life. He constantly worked on better performance for automobiles and even held a world land speed record, in a speedster no less, at over 90 miles per hour on a cindered frozen lake outside Detroit, Michigan. In his day, he was scorned by many as a speed demon, but eventually would be credited with putting America on wheels. His name was Henry Ford. A couple of years later, on a return trip to the Midwest, I arranged to go see the now finished speedster. As the door slowly swung upward on Kurt's garage, I again saw a ghost. It was none other than the black car that I saw on Flansburg Road as a child. It was the same car. I was sure of it.
I've seen this car before.
Well, I don't know where you've seen it because I built this car here in the garage.
Well, tell me about it.
I've always had a love for motorsports, and I thought, man, it'd be neat to have a race car that you could drive on the street. So I found a picture of a car that I thought was really neat on a calendar in 1991, and I kept that picture on my garage wall for 10 years trying to find something similar, and I never could find anything I could afford, so I decided if I was going to have one, I was going to have to do it myself. So I bought this 29 chassis and a motor, and decided to make the whole thing myself. Turned out to be like a 3-year project. Been a fun ride. As far as the engine goes, the original Model A engines were about 38 horsepower. This has been modified to about 110, using all speed parts that were pretty much available in the period of these cars. Cruises down the road at about 65, 70 like nothing. Has a top speed of about 100 miles an hour. It's a blast to drive. It's like driving a big go-kart. I had hundreds of pictures of old race cars of this era, and not many of them were alike. It was all just pieces that guys put together in their backyard. So that's kind of what I did. I started at the front and worked my way to the back, just building piece by piece, and I wound up with this.
I was handed a white jacket, chrome goggles, and black racing gloves, along with a soft white helmet. When the four-banger cranked immediately into a low, throaty idle, we could no longer talk. When he increased the revs sharply, I now thought I had heard a ghost. It was the same exact sound. I was so sure of it. The car was fast, real fast. We raced along past huge old trees, casting ever-lengthening shadows in our path with the low, late afternoon sun. Every bump in the road and every twitch of the ancient old chassis had me glancing over at my old friend for affirmation that everything was indeed going as planned. On and on we sped. I don't think it even dawned on me when Kurt slowed just enough to straighten out the turn that would put us onto Flansburg Road. When we emerged from the last bend, there was a young boy walking alongside the road with a fishing pole over his shoulder. And it was easy to see that he was startled by our quick arrival and almost automatically waved to him as if to say that everything was all right. When we pulled into the drive at Kurt's garage, it was dark enough for headlights, but they went out at the same moment as the noise. The monster was once again lying still, sleeping. Now, years later, the world has been launched into a new millennium, and I find myself at 75 years of age. Whenever I get back to the Midwest, I try to make time to stroll in the countryside where I grew up. Sometimes I stop to look around, only to find that after all these years, it all looks the same as it did way back then. And the wind lulls momentarily and the rustling leaves settle to a whisper. I swear I can still hear the faraway distant thunder moving quickly out of earshot of the phantoms of Flansburg Road. My better judgment always scrambles to convince me that it's only my imagination. I don't allow it. Thank you.